Started. All right, we're live. We're going. F101 week 12.5. We're doing the British GP review. Um, and we will talk about the current events, but we'll get to that later. That is a whole second segment of the show. A second segment that I was not ready to happen when I woke up this morning. Segment I did not anticipate, but here we are. But we'll enough teasing. We'll get into it. But we gotta talk about the British GP because all of the news has completely overshadowed it. And I think that's a little unfair to what happened. Um, Hulkenberg obviously is the big story. The finishing order being Norris, Piastri, Hulkenberg getting his first ever podium. His first podium, he waited 15 years and 239 races in F1. And he finally got that podium. So that's the podium. The McLaren boys and a Sauber. And then Hamilton, who lost his podium streak, brings it home in fourth, followed by Verstappen, Gasly, Stroll, Albon, Alonso, Russell to round out the points. Behrman, Sainz, Ocon, Leclerc, and Tsunoda rounded out the rest of the finishers. And then you're probably wondering, that's only 15 people. What happened to the other 15 or the other 5? Well, Colapinto didn't start, and then Lawson, Bortoleto, Hadjar, and Antonelli didn't finish. So it was quite the race. And it was a lot of people's first race after the F1 movie. So the F1 movie came out, and this was the first race that happened. So that's a crazy introduction to the sport. If people are watching from the movie, which I'm sure people were. But the biggest story of the race, despite a lot happening, is Nico Hulkenberg. He drove from 19th to 3rd. Really handled the mixed conditions. It rained a ton at the beginning and in the middle, and then not at all at the end. He handled them really well, and importantly, he did not pit after the formation lap, which his strategy guys wanted him to, but he didn't. And he kept climbing, and he did get struck behind Stroll, but then they activated DRS, and then he made the overtake pretty easy, and then put enough of a gap between him and Hamilton. So there was really no threat that Hamilton was going to catch him, especially with how little laps left were in the race. So, yes, he gets his first podium, giving him, I forgot to do this, good day, Nico Hulkenberg, obviously, and Pierre Gasly. Bad day, Piastri, Verstappen, Leclerc, and every rookie but one, which is Behrman. So, the Hulkenberg podium was it was hard to believe as it was happening. I was like, it's not. This Hamilton's going to catch him. Some crazy thing is going to happen. It's not going to happen. Like he's not going to get it because he's like cursed. But he did, and it was incredible. Sauber
What was
didn't have any
what?
champagne,
Oh yeah.
so
Well, that
Mercedes and Aston Martin sent champagne to the garage.
that happened to him. Like his first podium was weird, and his celebration wasn't great afterwards. But also in the post-race interviews, and every driver but one had the same reaction, basically, which was that was a tough race. I didn't like it. I mean, Hulkenberg got P3, and they're like, "Oh, how's it feels like? It feels okay. I'm glad I got podium, but it was really tough out there." And everyone but Alex Albon was like, "Yeah, it sucked racing. Like I guess the conditions were really bad. It was a tough driving, probably extremely exhausting.
Mhm.
So really weird. Such a great race to watch, but man, all the drivers seemed like it was a really rough time driving out there."
Well, it's the first time in like weeks that Albon's car didn't explode randomly, so that's probably why he had
Yeah.
a good time.
It's like, oh, everyone else is exploding but me. Wow, this is crazy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The podium. I hesitate to call it drama. I don't think we need to talk about it. If you really are invested, just go on like Reddit and or Twitter and just like search Hulkenberg podium, and you'll get all sorts of people. You'll get a bunch of opinions from people who should not be giving their opinions on things, basically. Um, so, yes, Hulkenberg, the big story. Our Formula 101 or F101 group chat photo has been changed to Hulkenberg. I imagine it will remain like that for quite some time. Um,
It's gonna take something crazy to like upend that.
yeah, I really will. At least for the year. Although, depending on
Well,
certain potential driver moves, there could be, but
hmm.
that's a later discussion. So yes, Hulkenberg gets third behind the McLaren. An unsurprising 1-2, but it was not without drama. Piastri was really controlling the race once he got ahead of Verstappen at the start. Because Verstappen was in hell all race. But Piastri brake checked the entire grid during the safety car and got a 10-second penalty, which in my opinion was too harsh, and in the opinion of a lot of people was too harsh. I think if there was a penalty, 5 seconds would have been probably the right amount. But whatever. He served his penalty. Norris overtook in that moment when Piastri was serving the penalty, and then Norris kept first. The McLarens are just so much faster than anyone, but Norris's home win was overshadowed by all this drama and the Hulkenberg podium. And Piastri was like so pissed off about the penalty. I mean, he was he was driving angry. He was like on the radio. He's being sassy in the interviews, and he was like, I can't say anything because I'll get banned like for a year. And so, um, he was, and I think rightfully upset. He shouldn't have gotten a 10-second penalty.
Yeah, I think one of his radio communications as well was asking if he could pass Norris. He's like, hey, the
Yeah,
penalty kind of sucked. Can I just get first? And they're like, no,
yeah.
but good try, good try.
So he keeps his lead. He maintains his lead in the championship, but it is only by 8 points now. Um, so yes, he was behind. So he braked behind the safety car. The safety car was ending, and so he was slowing up the grid so he could get into a better position. And the FIA determined that he braked too hard and too suddenly. It was considered erratic driving. And it was one of many safety cars. There was a virtual safety car from laps 1 to 4 that was because of Lawson. And then there was another one from lap 6 to 7, which is because of Bortoleto. And then a full safety car from laps 14 to 17, partially due to rain, or primarily due to increase in rain. And then again on lap 18 to 21, Hadjar crashed after clipping Antonelli, who then went on to retire in lap 23. So both V Carbs didn't finish the race, and that's all I have to say about them. Um, because in the Red Bull side of things, Verstappen had an insane qualifying lap to get on pole. Genuinely a masterpiece. Hamilton and the McLarens were just so fast all qualifying, but they all lost time on the final turn. And Hamilton does his lap. He does an amazing lap. And then Piastri gets ahead of him to put it on pole. And then it's like, all right, Verstappen purple in sectors 1 and 2, and then he keeps it clean at the end, and he gets pole by I think it was 0.24, which is crazy. I think that GP told him that Hamilton was doing well, and it activated Max like a sleeper agent. He was like, nope, absolutely not. Uh, and but the car was set up for high downforce, which would have been fine if it didn't rain. But it did rain, and the car was like uncontrollable. He spun on the safety car reset after Piastri brake checked everybody, and there was no recovery. Even though he still got fifth, but he wasn't catching Hamilton or Hulk, so podium was out of contention for him after he dropped. I think he dropped down to 10th, or maybe even below that after the
Yeah, it was
spin.
like 9 or 10. Do you
Yeah,
think he would have gotten P3 without that spin out? He would have at least been in the conversation.
yeah, I think it would have been tight. Um, yeah, it would have been interesting because he's really good on safety car resets. And you have to think how would Lando, because he was ahead of Lando still. So how would Lando have reacted? Because Lando would have had to pass Max, and while he probably could have easily, Lando does have there's some like mental block, I think, when it comes to racing Verstappen specifically, just because Verstappen terrorized him all last year. So I think he still would have been in podium conversation. Would he have gotten it? It's hard to say. That car was miserable. Tsunoda was fine in practice, but again, the car was horrible. He couldn't put it together in qualifying. And he got a 10-second penalty for causing a collision with Behrman. he was already in last at the time, so it didn't matter. And in my opinion, it was more on Behrman dive bombing Yuki, but whatever. I mean, Red Bull is lucky that other things happened this week that's going to take like the eyes away from their horrible performance this race.
Sometimes I think it would be better for Yuki to just be part of the people that didn't finish, because he just looks really bad out there, and he keeps on having these incidents where it's not just like, oh, he's just having a quiet, last place for whoever finished the race.
Mm-hmm.
He's causing incidences, may or may not be his fault, but he's always in the news for something bad, and he's always sad after the race. I'm like, just
Yeah.
oh man, this storm is kind of crazy. Anyway.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's here too.
Agreed. Yep.
So mine will always be recording, but we might lose stream. In which case, I'll just we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Might be a
If I have to
two-parter.
stop a sentence, it's I'm just getting spooked like a dog from this thunder and lightning.
My dog is getting spooked.
I'm fine.
Like a dog.
I just think I saw a mattress like fly off a roof of a building. To
That's
the
awesome.
street.
That's so good. My blinds are closed and I'm facing away from the window anyway. Look, every race I wear my Yuki Tsunoda shirt, and every Sunday I'm just like, oh man. So I feel for the guy, and I feel for all Yuki fans who are out there struggling along with him. Before we move on to the rest of the teams, Nate, anything you'd like to say about McLaren?
Anything I'd like to say about McLaren? I mean, I could speak the world of McLaren right now.
Okay, how about the British GP specifically? Keep it short. Just keep in mind what we have to talk about later, and that's going to take up a lot of time.
No, I gotcha. No, I mean, regarding Silverstone, heading into it was super excited just because they brought out the stealth and chrome. I know some people weren't exactly happy with the execution of the chrome, but
the orange on the nose was stupid. Change my mind.
Fair enough. Anyways, heading into the race, I thought, I had Lando pegged to win. So when qualifying happened, I was just like, wow. But I mean, I feel like throughout the weekend, McLaren did a good job of managing. The penalty really did suck for Oscar. I do think that 10 seconds was a lot. However, I know the data was there, and I'm glad they didn't protest. I just feel like that would have been kind of silly. And I do kind of appreciate that they didn't really put team orders in there. I think that would have just added a whole nother layer and sparked a lot of controversy in the garage. And, as far as I'm concerned, Oscar has every right to be upset, and I'm glad that he's just upset at the FIA and not anything else. But yeah, I mean, things went well throughout the race. The only thing that I was really kind of questioning was just they pitted at the end when they were ahead by a minute, and I was just like, you didn't even need to do that.
A free pit stop just in case.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, but I was just like,
You wanted them to win by a minute and a half, just a style.
Well, no, it wasn't even so much stat padding. I was just I feel like that, anything can go wrong. So it's why? Because they were switching. I think that last pit they switched from inners to slicks because everyone else was switching to slicks because the track was drying up. Although some people switched to slicks too early. But yeah, that's my only question. I think otherwise everything. I can't really be mad at it. I'm certainly not mad at the outcome. I am upset for Oscar, in spite of having wanted Lando to win and having predicted that. It sucks that it's a little overshadowed, but it is what it is. And yeah, I know we got other things to go through.
Well, I think pitting at the end there is if you if there's a safety car or some shit happens because everyone's on slicks and sliding around, even though it was still manageable, and you're stuck on
Mm,
inters behind, and the safety car ends before the race is over, you're screwed on the restart.
that's true. That's fair.
So I think that's probably why. And it worked
Mm,
out. So they were faster than everybody. It's just, I mean, it's that car is crazy. And
Not even
mm,
close.
they handled the Piastri thing, I think, like relatively well. As someone who wanted Piastri to win, I would have liked to see them raise a little more hell about it, but I get it. And the team, they really didn't do anything wrong this weekend. It was all, I mean, the only reason they didn't qualify 1-2 is because Max Verstappen is a freak of nature and Lewis Hamilton is faster in Silverstone. So, um, but they finished 1-2 miles ahead of everybody. And they handled the rain well, which is something they haven't done before. So that's a big plus for them.
And with the car being so fast, I mean, this was a risky race just because it had the opportunity for something bad to happen, and it didn't happen. So they
Right.
kind of get out of this without, being one of the 5 that didn't get to finish the race.
Yeah, exactly. So good. Congratulations to McLaren. Definitely a solid home race for them. And maybe we'll see a little vengeful Oscar um after losing out twice in a row. In By the time Spa comes around. But for that, one thing I mentioned with Nico, which I think was important to his strategy, was not pitting for slicks right after the formation lap. Leclerc, Russell, and Hadjar all did that, and it didn't go well for any of them. It just didn't work. The track was way too wet still. They couldn't get any traction. They were sliding all over the place. Leclerc suffered more than anyone. He had just a horrible race, horrible strategy. At a point, he was like drenched with so much spray and water. He was like, "Man, I can't see anything. I just got hit with a huge splash of water." I don't know why water is against Leclerc this year. Between um the seat is full of water. It must be the water radio in this. I don't know what he did to anger Poseidon, but he did something. The whole race was just a disaster class for Leclerc. I mean, truly awful. He was all over the road. He was all over the grass. He was just a horrible, horrible time. But Hamilton and the other Ferrari had actually a pretty decent race. Even though he was complaining about grip the whole time, but that's classic Lewis Hamilton. But his podium streak at Silverstone does come to an end, which I think would have been received worse if it was anyone but Hulkenberg. Like if anyone else got that podium, it would have been like a bigger moment. Hamilton lost the streak, but because it was Hulkenberg, the Hulkenberg podium took out like so much potential post-race drama.
mm,
Yeah, and
um,
if it wasn't Hulkenberg too, just because of how the race kind of shook out, it wasn't like Hamilton was going against like the top drivers of like, Verstappen. Well,
mhm.
he was going against Verstappen, but he wasn't going against like,
He wasn't going
Leclerc
against the
or Russell
McLarens,
or Kimi or the McLarens for this P3. He was going
right?
against Gasly and Stroll. So if it was anyone else who got that P3, it would have been like, oh my, Hamilton, you're washed. This was like your
Yeah.
best shot. And it was his best shot. He had to just beat a Sauber. But Hulkenberg was too strong.
And that Salver is actually decent now.
It is. It went up. They're up to P6 right now, and they're getting kind of close to the Williams.
Yeah, we will. I do have the points. So we'll get into that in a bit. But before that, everyone was really up and down this race, in my opinion. The only teams that drove close to each other were both McLarens, both Williamses at a point for Williams, and then both Haas cars. No one could figure out when to switch from intermediate tires to slicks. Anytime someone pitted for slicks, it went wrong. There was no right time to do it. Um, and the only reason McLaren did it at the end again was like if there's a weird safety car or something, and it's a free pit stop, you might as well. And at the closing stages of the race, it was getting a lot drier out there, so it like that was really the only time it was a right call. Alonso and Russell took earlier stops, even after Russell pitted after the formation lap. Didn't work out. They finished 9th and 10th. Russell had some okay pace at moments, never got the chance to use it. Um, Both Haas cars ran into each other on lap 44. There was no safety car or anything, and they weren't really in points contention for too long anyway. They did an awesome little like synchronized spin. And then Gasly qualified 10th and was running in 6th for most of the race before a last lap overtake on Stroll to snag 5th in what was an amazing race for him and the team, especially considering the other half of the garage didn't even start the race. Colapinto crashed in qualifying. They replaced his power unit, and then he just didn't even start. And so Gasly genuinely is one of the best drivers when it comes to having a bad car. I think he can outdrive bad cars better than just about anyone on the grid. He was winning in the 20. He got a win in the 2021 AlphaTauri, which was like decent, but it still wasn't great. And he's getting these really strong positions in the Alpine. He's the only reason they have points at right now. So even if the car sucks, Gasly I think has really shown that like he's got like some pretty intense talent and pace, which I've always known. But uh there are rumors of Doohan coming back, which are insane.
I do think bring him Doohan back, then get another driver. And
I
he's
think
looking
yes,
really bad.
if they're gonna get rid of Colapinto, you bring back Doohan. I don't think you waste your fourth driver, because if you get a fourth driver and then Pierre gets injured or sick, then you have to put Doohan or Colapinto back anyway instead of like testing out another driver. So
Yeah, but to talk about Gasly real quick, we're just talking last week and every week this season, pretty much that Gasly is one of the best drivers in a bad car, and the Alpine is probably the worst car on the grid.
I think it is. I don't even think it's probable.
Yeah. If you look at the points and where Gasly's been finishing, he gets into Q3 somehow, like a decent amount of times, and then qualifies P10, keeps on qualifying P10. But he can never really get out of low points. And this race, he finally got up there. Finally got a nice P5. Had some good fights with Verstappen. Got past Stroll, who was, we'll talk about him, I guess. But he was driving really strong, and then kind of lost a lot of pace towards the end of the race.
Yeah.
He had a really good showing this week.
Yeah, Gasly and Stroll. I mean, I knew it. Stroll, everyone, like, people who, like, know Formula One, they know Stroll is a beast in the rain for some reason. And it showed. He was up in third for a long time. But once DRS was activated, the Aston just wasn't fast enough to outdrive someone with DRS. And so he ends up, he falls down to 6th. I mean, I think if anyone, even as good as Stroll is in the rain, if you're like, okay, Stroll or Hamilton in the rain, I think everyone's picking Hamilton, and that's exactly what happened, and Hamilton did overtake him pretty easily. So, but I mean, other than that, like, Stroll kind of had like a pretty quiet race, just out like kind of in front. I mean, in front of everyone else that weren't McLaren. They were like a minute ahead. So
P3, but that's just clean air because McLaren's are 30 seconds.
Exactly. Exactly. So
count the McLarens as being in the race because they're so far ahead after, like, I don't know, lap 21 or whenever they got that far ahead after the safety car.
Yeah.
It is just the McLarens and then everyone else.
Yeah, that's the Max Verstappen 2023 experience as well. So it was a really wild race. So much happened, and then everything that happened in the race was immediately overshadowed by the Hülkenberg podium.
And deserved, kind of. I mean, I think
Very deserved. Very deserved.
The drivers kind of wanted it to be. It was a tough race.
Yeah.
I talked about it earlier, but no one was really happy with it. Hard driving. Really, really interesting race just because you're seeing a lot of fights for points for drivers you don't normally see. You don't normally see Gasly and Stroll and Hülkenberg fighting with Hamilton, Verstappen.
Yeah.
For points. So a lot of these crashes and kind of bad strategy let the door open for a lot of the mid-tier teams and even the one low-tier team to kind of have an interesting race after many races, nothing happening for those.
Yeah, I mean, Silverstone, there's something special about it, and we always say rain is the great equalizer in Formula One. So when there's rain, there's chaos. With Hülkenberg, with his podium, He moves to ninth in the drivers with 37 points. He has outscored Max Verstappen in the last 4 races. And Sauber moved up to sixth with 41 points. Williams stay in fifth, but are only 18 points ahead at 59. Red Bull and Aston are tied for not Red Bull, Racing Bulls are tied for seventh with 36 points. Haas have 29 and Alpine has 19, all of which are from Gasly, 8 of which are from this race alone.
I'm hoping Haas has been really ass.
I know.
Maybe Alpine can sneak in a few extra points that Haas can't. It is kind of 2v1, so it's probably not likely, but it's possible. Alpine does not last.
I think I'm going to eat my words about Haas beating Williams.
Yeah, and I predicted Sauber, and that seems pretty good right
That's
now.
a crazy. I mean, it goes to show what one podium will do. The only reason Alpine didn't get dead last year was because they got a 2-3 in Brazil. So,
let's go. Let's do it again. Come on.
And it was in the rain, so.
A great equalizer. That's all we need. Some rain in Brazil, and Alpine can get not dead last.
No, not more rain in Brazil. That race was so dangerous. They should not have raced. But at the front, Piastri's lead, like I said, went down to 8 points. He has 234. Norris has 226. McLaren have 460 and have basically secured first place in the constructors. Ferrari and Merc are only 12 points away. 222 for Ferrari, 210 for Merc. So it's gonna be close between them for the rest of the year, I believe. And then Red Bull is floating down in fourth with 172. Going to be hard for them to catch Mercedes, but it's going to be hard for. I mean, Williams isn't going to catch Red Bull, so they're kind of like basically floating in fourth. And unless Max Verstappen and Yuki Tsunoda, like unless the car turns around, I think that's probably where they'll stay.
I mean, they can also hope that either Ferrari or Mercedes just kind of loses it. They've both had points during the season where they haven't looked very good. Mercedes is not looking very good right now. A lot of that comes to Kimi not scoring any points after he's crashed a lot or has not been able to finish a lot this season. So they can bank on that. Russell for the past few races hasn't done very well. He's getting in P10 a few times, so they can hope that Merc just kind of falls off and Verstappen can one-man team his way up there just by getting consistent like P5s, P4s, some podiums in there.
True. I think Antonelli not scoring points, though, isn't necessarily the end of the world for Mercedes because he's a rookie. They kind of probably are expecting some up and downs for him.
And then just because if that's the case, it comes down to Verstappen versus Russell.
And I think Verstappen Russell right now has the more reliable car, but in a straight fight, I'd take Verstappen.
Yeah. It would be interesting if that's how it shakes out, and it's just Verstappen versus Russell for who can get that.
I mean, Yuki's gonna win the next 12 races, so I don't know why we're talking about this, but
he's getting all the bad luck out the way, all the bad karma.
Exactly.
He's building it up. Now he's gonna use it all to get some P1s in there.
Exactly. So Britain, the certified Ferrari moment would be Leclerc, Russell, and Hadjar making the call to pit for slicks after the formation lap, and subsequently Leclerc going on to have one of the worst races of his life. Very Ferrari move to make the wrong tire decision in the rain. Very on brand for Ferrari. And pick the podium. Right person, wrong time. Davis picked Hulkenberg in third twice. And in second once, but not this weekend.
No, he's not. He wasn't French. I think the French, they all let me down. I mean, Gasly had a good race, but the other two, Hadjar and Leclerc, had terrible
I
races.
do want to say, Nate, I do have to call you out a little bit. Because when Hulkenberg was running up in third, you hit up our group chat and said, Dave's podium predictions looking spicy. He picked Leclerc, Gasly, and Hadjar.
Yeah. I said from like 2 weeks ago. No. I said from like 2 weeks ago.
I must have missed that because I thought for sure. I don't think you did. You might have meant to. Hold on, let's go back.
What? Yeah, I don't see. Hadjar's not even in the race. What are you talking about? Oh yeah, what was Stroll, Hulkenberg, Albon? That was one of them.
Oh my God, there was so much. I was ignoring all
Dave's
of this.
week 10 podiums.
Oh, okay, I just ignored the week 10.
Okay.
Okay, I was like, I swore I at least like specified because I realized too. I was like,
Stroll
Got it.
Hulkenberg Albon, that would have been pretty spicy.
That because I was like, at that point, Leclerc was in like near last, Hadjar was out of the race, and Gasly was down in 7 or 6,
yeah.
and I was like, what the hell is this guy talking about? Oh man. So yes, that's the British Grand Prix. All right. Well, never mind. I apologize. I just didn't read your full message.
No, I
Uh,
respect it because I would have thought the same thing too. It's just like, what are we talking about?
so
As clear as
I was
like
like, is
pulling
this
off
guy
the
oh,
attacking
track.
you right now? What do you expect from me?
also Nate did take the lead in the podium predictions.
Oh, he
Finally,
did by
he
Oh,
3
did.
wait.
points.
3 points. 3 points. So
Oh shit, you're right.
congratulations.
Yeah.
If you keep this up, a prize is in your future.
Word?
And I
He did
already
it
know
with Piastri hate too. Didn't even pick Piastri on the podium.
he hasn't. I don't think you've. Yeah, there's
I
a.
haven't I haven't picked Piastri in like 2 weeks on the podium. I
Yeah,
think
Oh,
you haven't picked
I still have the hold up. I
Piastri
still have the tab
like
open.
anywhere but third. I'm pretty sure. Um. So
Yeah.
so yes, that's the British GP. Wow, the Hulkenberg podium overshadowed a lot of the post-race drama. Any potential other post-race drama was completely shattered because at 5:30 a.m. Eastern Time, Christian Horner exited Red Bull in a statement made by the Red Bull parent company, Red Bull GmbH, which is like the so it wasn't a decision announced by Red Bull Racing, it was by Red Bull the drinks company, like the overarching company. He is still employed by the team. He's just no longer in an operational leading the team in an operational capacity. This either means could mean so many things. It could mean that there's going to be legal trouble in the future. It could mean that he's on contract and they're going to finish out the contract. They just don't want him in charge. It can mean all sorts of stuff. But just know that even the worst people, no matter what, just you can rest assured that no matter what happens in the world, millionaires will still get paid. Um, Horner was in position for 20 years. He's the sport's longest standing team principal, and he brought Red Bull from the ashes of Jaguar to 8 World Drivers' Championships, 6 World Constructors' Championships, 124 race wins with 107 pole positions. He also brought on Sebastian Vettel and Max Verstappen. Yes, Helmut Marko brought on Verstappen, but Horner still put him in the seat. He brought in Jonathan Wheatley and Adrian Newey, who were critical to the team's success, even though they are both no longer there, and a ton of other incredibly talented and smart and influential people. The team loves them. The people on the team love them. Like the engineers and the data people and all those guys. And it's a lot of praise, but in no means is he a good guy. The final years of his career were mired with turmoil, a ridiculous power struggle within Red Bull after the co-founder of the company died, and scandal, which culminated in leaked WhatsApp messages between Horner and his personal assistant, who was also Adrian Newey's secretary, and brought us such gems such as File 76, Cocoa Pops, I'm Reaching Q3, and Lesbians.
can you say that last line again? I don't think you put enough emphasis on it.
Lesbians.
Thank you.
That is an exact quote from the leaked text. Was just lesbians! Exclamation point. He got into an argument with the girl about Cocoa Pops. We learned that Horner describes his levels of horniness by Q1, 2, and 3 as how close he is to finishing. Um, and File 76 may or may not have been a dick pic or a finger with jizz on it. There's really no other way to say it. These videos aren't monetized anyway. I don't really care. It and that was the opening weekend of last year, the opening race, and that was what everyone was focused on. Um, Importantly, during the power struggle, Horner wanted full control of the team, and he got financial backing outright, like to buy Red Bull Racing, which did not make the people who owned Red Bull happy. Does he suck? Yes. Was he one of the best team principals in the sports history? Also, yes. But don't get me wrong. I think part of being a Red Bull fan and a Max Verstappen fan is hating Christian Horner and Helmut Marko, and recognizing that they're bad people, even if they're very talented. But the big question is, why now? Why so sudden? Um, and I think it's first and foremost Red Bull's performance. The results have suffered. The performance has suffered. The car sucks. It's unsustainable. Winning all but one race in 2023, mixed results in 2024, near failure this year. They've only won twice. It's just on such a downward spiral. The signing Checo and then dropping him within like a whatever 4 month span has allegedly cost the company 75 million euros. They've lost a ton of key players. Like I said, Adrian Newey, who was their technical director, I think was his position. He designed the car. I don't know his actual official title. Jonathan Wheatley, who was their sporting director. Wheatley, now the team principal at Sauber, responsible for their turnaround, along with Bonotto. And Adrian Newey is now at Aston Martin. And Adrian Newey specifically left Red Bull because of Horner. He never that wasn't an official like reasoning as to why he left, but then he later on like alluded to it. There's also the Max Verstappen question. It's no coincidence this announcement comes with along with major speculation about Verstappen's future with the team, which includes Verstappen's own refusal to stay, that he's staying or leaving. They asked him if he's staying. He's like, I'm not going to comment. They asked him if he's leaving. He's like, I'm not going to comment. So Verstappen himself has been like not like committed to the team. And it could be the final straw for letting Verstappen. So there's two sides to this. It could be that internally, Max Verstappen told Red Bull he's out. He's like, I'm going to a different team next year, whether it's Mercedes or whatever. He's like, I'm gone. And Red Bull's like, all right, final straw. Sorry, Christian. Between everything else and now this, that's it. You're done. Or it could be that Verstappen was like, hey, if you don't get rid of Horner, I'm leaving next year. And Red Bull was like, okay, we'll get rid of Horner. But that doesn't make sense to me at all, because it's like Christian Horner got Max 4 world championships. You want a team with stability. Getting rid of your team principal doesn't do that, even if he was a shitty person. And it doesn't make sense for Max to be like, I want Horner out. Max's dad, Jos Verstappen, does not get along with Horner. Helmut Marko doesn't really get along with Horner, and Max is super loyal to both of them. And both of those guys wanted Horner out last year, but it doesn't make sense to me for Max to like be like, I want Horner gone, and I want to throw this team into turmoil without leadership and no clear direction forward, and then stay there. It seems to me that it's more likely the opposite, where Max left and Horner is out as a result. I just don't see I don't see it being Verstappen like kick Horner out and then I'll stay, because then he's still at a bad team with a bad car and now with no leadership. So unless he wants to like, I don't know, his people to take over, but it just doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, here's my crackpot theory. Maybe Verstappen did want Horner out. He recently had a daughter. Maybe he looked into his daughter's eyes and went, oh, Horner is a terrible person. I don't want him here anymore.
It could be, it could be. I didn't even think about that. It totally could be. Parenthood, fatherhood changes a man. I also think that there's a possibility of more allegations coming out, given the sudden and clinical nature. Red Bull gave him a sentence. They gave him I think 2 sentences, which is ridiculous for a guy that literally made the team. And it's like, it's all very weird. And so I've seen people think there's either more allegations, or the woman in the original allegations is like going to sue with like credible, damning evidence that Red Bull knows about, and they're getting ahead of it. And that plays into the why he's still technically employed but not fired yet, because of that kind of legal stuff. But I think it's more likely, I think, of those two, that more allegations would come out as opposed to the original accuser having like suing. But I don't really know. I'm not like super familiar with like legal stuff like that. But regardless, Christian Horner's remarkable career comes to a marred and blemished end. In typical Red Bull fashion, he gets no send-off. He's out in the middle of the season, and we may not hear about him in the sport ever again until his wife files for divorce, which is a rumor, or he replaces Vasseur at Ferrari, which is tossed around, especially because Ferrari have been trying to poach Horner for the last 5 years or so, or if he buys Alpine, which is also a possibility. And I don't know which one's funnier.
Horner and Briatore together, the League of Doom.
Briatore was the first person not in Red Bull to make a post about it.
Let's go. We're gonna have a League of Doom. No morals, just cheating, both in the races and on your wife.
Yes.
So we're gonna have a good time. Gasly's gonna learn a lot. The rookies are gonna learn a lot from the new dads about how to get ahead in the world.
So, yes, it is a very Red Bull send-off. Very fitting for a man known to cut drivers mid-season to get cut mid-season. Horner will be replaced by Laurent McKee, VCarb's former team principal. Former as of literally today. He was the team principal yesterday. Who he had a rough start at VCarb after Franz Tost retired, but he turned it around, cleaned up their pit stops, cleaned up their strategy, built a quick and drivable car, and most importantly, brought the team together. And he built a really strong culture with a lot of good morale, which is important for the team that gets Red Bull's, unwanted children, basically. Look at Lawson's turnaround in performance and attitude. When he went to VCarb at first, I mean, he was mentally broken. He wasn't driving well, and now, I mean, Silverstone was kind of a mess, but he has been driving a lot better. He seems a lot happier. And I think that's really important. And then McKee will be replaced by Alan Permane, who was VCarb's racing director and the former sporting director at Renault. He was fired from Renault after Renault's once every 3 years cleaning house, which they do all the time for no reason. And McKee is a known Tsunoda defender. So Suyuki's seat at Red Bull may have just been saved. Huge for me. But yeah, no doubt McKee kind of had a struggle first coming into VCarb. But a lot of that is he's stepping into Franz Tost's shoes, who everybody loved. So it's really hard to do that. But I think it'll at least provide no drama for the rest of the year. Whether or not they keep him, we'll see. But McKee has a long history in the sport. He's worked at Ferrari. He worked at Arrows, which became McLaren. So I have no idea what's going to happen with Red Bull, and everyone is certainly holding their breath to see what Verstappen does. In my opinion, like I said, I think it's likely that Verstappen's jumping ship, and that's what caused Horner to be fired. There's 17 days until the next race weekend, so McKee and Permane have time to settle in. The media will have time to speculate as much as they want, and we have time to prepare for Spa and whatever comes between now and then. And that is Christian Horner. There were some amazing reactions and some crackpot theories, so if you'll indulge me, I think objectively the funniest outcome is Horner replaces Vasseur at Ferrari. It would just be, Horner with Leclerc and Hamilton would just be at Ferrari. It's just so out there. Additionally, someone posited this: Horner to Ferrari, Verstappen and Leclerc to Mercedes, Antonelli to Alpine, Piastri and Russell to Red Bull, Hamilton to the retirement home, hopes and prayers to Ferrari. In all of that, notice that Ferrari did not get a single driver.
They get Doohan and Colapinto.
Yeah, there you go. They're gonna get Mick Schumacher and someone Nick DeVries.
And just put him randomly. Why is Antonelli going to Alpine?
Alpine is gonna buy Mercedes engines next year, and Mercedes might use that as hey, test out our junior drivers kind of strong arm like they used to do with Williams, but then Williams put their foot down. And now Williams has much more bargaining power, whereas Alpine has none. And this was more also people are like, well, they should let Antonelli go and develop an Alpine and pair Max and Russell in Mercedes. And everyone was like, developed in Alpine?
He's already been on the podium. He's
exactly
in P20 every race.
It's so stupid. Red Bull, another theory, Red Bull goes through a full rebuild with team principal and they get a new team principal, and Oscar Piastri is their new number one driver. Lauren McKee has had enough of Yuki suffering in Red Bull, and he decided to personally do something about it. Horner is going to buy Alpine. Max Verstappen is going to step in as Red Bull's next team principal. Someone said Horner should have been demoted to V-Carb for the full Red Bull experience. More Christian Horny allegations. Toto to Red Bull. Toto becomes the Red Bull principal so he can finally be with Max, but Max leaves for Merc.
Timing. They
Yeah.
sign a contract the same day, and you go, "Oh no!"
Yeah. Zach Brown is officially the new shit stirrer villain of F1, which is gross and sauceless. No offense, Nate. He just doesn't have that dog in him, like Toto and Christian did. Toto is in his feelings, losing the one man on the grid who could go toe to toe with him. Hulk podium was an exit clause in Horner's contract. He signed it thinking it wouldn't happen. The Etsy witches we paid to give Yuki luck in Japan were just a little slow with it. Don't cry because it's Hornover. Smile because it Verstappen. Max is either staying or going. Huge if true. What Hulkenberg podium does to a guy. Ladies and gentlemen, your next FIA presidential candidate.
Wow. I think all of it's going to happen. I don't know if all of it can happen. In fact, I think it can't, but I think it is. All of it's going to happen. It's going to be a great year.
So, normally, all the driver changes and stuff are announced over the summer break, which is affectionately referred to as silly season. Which is after Hungary. So, it's after 2 races from now.
Let's go. Let's get some shakeups. Let's get.
So silly season has started early. The Nico Hulkenberg podium has put us into a very weird timeline.
Hulkenberg to Mercedes, actually, during silly season. We're gonna get rid of replace Russell with Hulkenberg. See what happens.
It's just been a crazy day with all the news, trying to figure out like what happened, and why. No one said anything official yet. I wonder, it is weird because I think 2 days ago, Mercedes CEO gave the team permission to pursue Max Verstappen. And then, now Horner's gone. It's just the timing is so bizarre, and no one, like, Mercedes and Red Bull and Max have not said a thing. So we don't know what's happening with them. If I was Toto Wolff and I signed Max Verstappen, I would not announce it until I knew for a fact that George Russell was at least in talks to get a seat elsewhere, because it would just be like bad PR. You know what I mean? Like, if I was Toto Wolff, I'd be like, we're signing Max, but don't worry. Like, George is not leaving the sport. He has a seat, but I'll let him announce it and stuff. So
George Russell does not deserve to get kicked off the team. He's been doing very well.
No, he doesn't. But if who are you gonna replace? You want to? Are you gonna replace? You're gonna replace Russell. Yeah, but if you have Verstappen,
Kimmy's just been let down by the team over and over and over again. It's like
But he's the future.
He is the future.
And if you let him go, you might not get him back.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. It would be tough. Maybe they should give Kimmy to Alpine. Let him develop before Russell loses, gets out of his prime.
Oh yeah, that's what Alpine definitely deserve, is like a once in a lifetime talent.
We've done really well with our rookie so far, so it'd be a great idea.
So it's so weird to end like on this like uncertain note, but like there's really nothing to say. Like Horner's out, and we'll see what happens. We'll see if Max announces anything. The first race back after the summer break is the Dutch GP. And if there was if there was ever a time for Max to announce a driver change, it would be there. So we might have to wait until August 7th or something like that. So over a month.
Damn.
So
It's
next,
gonna be
so next
interesting.
race is July 27th. That's Belgium, and then August 1st, a week after, is Hungary, and then August 29th to the 31st is the Dutch GP weekend. So literally the last day of August is the race.
Lovely,
Max
lovely.
cannot get out of the news. He's always in the news every single week. How does he do it?
Who?
I mean,
Max.
He's the best.
yeah, I was gonna say, like, when you're at that level, like, kind of hard. If anything, it's harder not to be in the news. You know, everyone's always analyzing like your every single move. Everyone always analyzes how he reacts
It doesn't
to other
help that
things.
Toto has been publicly thirsting for him for like a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, of all weeks, this week was the one where it's like, oh yeah, and Verstappen, we get 4th or 5th. Yeah, 5th.
Yeah, it should have been a quiet week.
But no, this had to happen today. It was like, forget about all the crazy shit that happened last week.
But
Actually, this is about Max Verstappen again.
at least he doesn't have to deal with media until July 26th.
It's okay. I'm gonna
Heck
find him
of
on
a
the simulators and talk trash. That's all I do
On the
response.
iRacing sims.
Yeah, on the iRacing Sims.
Oh
heck of
man.
a heck of a first week for any like new F1 fans though.
I
Heck
know.
of a
They
first
got
week.
they got Hulk and Podium, they got a crazy Silverstone race, they got Christian Horner's firing.
Mm.
I did see someone say that if Max leaves Red Bull, they should replace him with Sonny Hayes, which was really funny. Oh, one crazy thing. Christian Horner, 20 years as Red Bull's team principal. This is the first day of Kimi Antonelli and Oliver Behrman's life that Christian Horner is not a team principal.
Wow, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah. Since before they were born.
Also
So
crazy fact. Well, I was just searching around on these standings over here. I guess it's just to make you sad, Max. Liam Lawson has more
ahead
points
of
than Yuki
Yuki. Yeah, yeah,
Tsunoda.
yeah. I didn't mention that because I didn't want
Damn.
to.
Yeah, that's tough. That's
But
tough scenes.
no one's surprised by that. We all know the Red Bull is really difficult.
Yeah, but we thought Liam was, really bad.
It's true.
But
It's true.
oh man, poor Yuki.
His only saving grace is that Laurent McKee loves him.
It's only saving grace is that you have 2 Alpine drivers who haven't scored a point yet. It's really
Also,
up in the standings.
Also, it's very lucky that Lawson was in that car first because everyone knows now that it's a car problem. They're like, it's not a Checo problem. It's not a Lawson problem. It's not a Yuki problem. It's a car issue. And somehow only Max Verstappen can drive it, which is like, makes you think if Max Verstappen was in this year's McLaren, I guess it was 2023's Red Bull, right? So we all know what happens. He wins every race.
Mm-hmm.
It's a miracle he's won too. And I mean, even though he can, drive the car, George Russell is kind of close. George Russell is closer to Max than Max is to the McLarens.
Yes.
So, and George hasn't even been doing that good these, past few weeks, and he's still within striking distance. So the car is not great.
Well, the rumored exit clause for Max was 4th place in the constructors by July. And so where he's not in 4th place yet, but or I'm sorry, not the constructors, the drivers. But it was really funny that Antonelli when he took out Verstappen and then Russell did kind of well. People are like, man, even when like Russell like wins, he loses because he's gonna get replaced. Russell either does bad and gets replaced because Max is better, or he does well and gets replaced because he activates Max's Red Bull clause.
Where does he go? Does he go to Red Bull?
No way. Zero. I don't know where he goes. He might go to. I've been thinking about this because I was like, where does he go? Does he go to Aston?
You might could ask. Fernando, is Fernando going to race next year?
I don't know. Only Fernando knows. Fernando has said that basically every driver. He said he'll stop racing when he can't match the stopwatch. So I don't know. He could. Stroll could leave. I don't think he will, but he could also. There's a weird there is a timeline where Piastri leaves McLaren, and
Wait. Hold up. I'm sorry. When and how does Stroll leave?
he just
He,
leaves.
yeah, I mean he's been having a tough year, so he might
Um,
just quit.
I
But he
mean, it
finally
would
got
be
like
up to
double
him.
points. Oh, okay.
Lance,
Yeah.
not Lawrence. Lawrence owns the team. I'm saying Lance
No.
could be like, oh, I don't want to
Not
race.
Lawrence. I knew you were talking about Lance. I just meant like, yeah, wait, like in what circumstances Lance like leave? Like what?
He just doesn't want to
Because I was like,
race anymore.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah. From that standpoint, that makes sense. I was like, what the hell would Lance?
Yeah. So
No,
there's a
it's just
timeline where Piastri goes to Red Bull and Russell potentially goes to McLaren. I think, which would be really shitty for Russell, I think the most realistic thing, let's say he does get replaced by Max Verstappen. Where does Russell go? Signs,
Alpine.
jumps to Audi because Sauber's been doing well, and Russell ends up back at Williams, which would suck for him. But I think that's the most realistic. Or he could go to Sauber. I think this is probably Nico's last year. He could also go to Cadillac.
every Cadillac,
Dude,
Alpine. He's gonna
so
some midfield team though. There's
They
none of the
haven't
top teams working for
announced.
anyone.
Yeah, Lewis won't retire until next year, I think. And
you think
and
Nico could retire?
I do. Yeah,
He
he
has
got his
podium.
podium. He's got. I mean, he has a kid, and I have a feeling that he has a second kid coming in about 9 months. So
A feeling? Didn't they just like announce that?
no, but his wife had like a welcome home party, and the way she was hugging him and kissing on him and
No,
dressed.
I thought she posted like they have a kid on the way.
Oh, I don't know. I didn't see that. I just saw the way they were looking at each other. I was like, "Oh yeah,
Oh
this dude's having another kid."
no, I think she is like already pregnant.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Uh,
Uh,
I'll send it in the chat in the
he's
group
gonna
chat
name
because
his
I was just
kid.
Well,
looking.
He's gonna name his kid Silverstone.
No,
So,
because I saw some posts about it that he was like winning on and off the track now.
oh
yeah,
yeah.
I don't see anything right now. But
It's like it was like on her account. Like somebody like screenshot or like did something like that.
All right,
you
let's
might
go.
Oh,
have been
I
you
don't.
might have been tricked.
Anyone know his wife's name?
I gotta go. You can find her on the
Ruskiate. Ruskiate. Egel Ruskiate.
yeah
Something.
EGLE Hulkenberg.
Looks more like that.
We could not make a little surprise for our whole.
I don't know if that was just celebrating, but I swore like somebody said something. I think there
It
was
was
like a
probably
link. There was
someone
like a
making the
thread.
same joke, to be honest,
Yeah.
Mm.
because there's nothing on her post on her Instagram. Yeah, yeah, I found her Instagram. That is her. That is the video I saw.
I found his 4-year-old child celebrating his podium.
Yes,
Maybe
very
that's why he
cute.
didn't have champagne. To be a good influence.
No, I think Sauber just wasn't expecting.
Champagne, who do you think we are? We gambled it away.
So that's the. It's crazy that like we had to brush over Silverstone, which was truly a crazy race. Um, the next F101 will be July 23rd. We'll be here for the Belgian Grand Prix, Spa, one of my favorite tracks on the calendar. So we all have a week off. You guys don't have to listen to me yap next week. So, um, and Dave has 2 weeks to get a thumbnail in.
Ooh, I have 2 weeks to hear about what Horner actually
Yeah,
did and make a
yeah.
track about it. That'll be so
This is gonna be loaded.
fun.
So yes, Spa, we will be July 23rd. We'll be here back, and it'll just be a normal like race preview, and we'll do our normal little, we'll do our predictions, we'll do everything. and we may not have an update about everything. So that is that. If you are watching this on YouTube, put in the comments what you think is going to happen. Give me your crackpot theory. I want to hear it.
Get in the comments. Why does Alpine deserve to have both Russell and Verstappen on this with Christian Horner and Flavio Briatore leading the team?
Yes.
When's that gonna happen?
Why does that? Why should that happen? Yeah. So yeah, let me know your crackpot theories. Thank you guys for being here. I appreciate it, and good night.